Hi and welcome back to Bolts to Light, and welcome to this demonstration of Ming Voyages. The Ming Voyages is the second game in these pocket campaigns, and this is designed by Dave Mortimer and Alan Paul, and this I think will become a bit of a partnership we'll see regularly. The first in this series was the Cousins War, which I've shown you before, and then the third is going to be the March of Progress. This one is from Alan Paul. Well, I know Dave and Alan, so they've sent me this prototype, which I've been playing through. I'm going to set up again and show you how to play. The Ming Voyages are the 7 journeys made by the Chinese treasure fleet of oceanic junks at the start of the 15th century. This is a period of outward-looking expansion, Chinese influence overseas. But they weren't having everything their own way. Whilst trying to seek influence overseas, the Ming Empire also had to defend its borders from barbarian hordes. This is a 2-player asymmetric game, 1 player taking on the role of the barbarians, 1 the Ming Empire. In the solo game, we play the Ming Emperor. Our objective is to complete these 7 voyages whilst defending our homeland from the encroaching barbarian overlords. If you take on the role of the overlords, then your aim is to occupy these 5 Chinese borderlands. Whichever player hits their major victory condition, control those 5 borderlands for the overlord or complete these 7 voyages for the Ming Emperor, will immediately win the game. If after 2 eras, each era is when we get through this event deck, neither player has accomplished their major victory, then you'll just tot up points. Number of voyages completed plus number of borderlands controlled versus barbarian controlled borderlands and uncompleted voyages. In the solo game, we've got some unique components. These are these 3 bot event decks. They control the behaviour of the barbarian overlord. And we've got some difficulty cards here which step up during the second era, but for the first era on the easy game, it says which deck we'll be choosing from in reaction to player actions. I'll show you this as we play. Why don't we dive straight into it and see how this thing works. So we start the game by drawing event cards for each player. 4 for the Overlord, 3 for the Ming Emperor. I must also say this is all prototype stuff right now. It's a pretty good prototype. Artwork's pretty much final, but card stock and that kind of stuff, prototype. In a 2-player game, you'll keep your cards hidden. In the solo game, you'll keep these cards face up. And then the game is played in various phases. The phases are: Ming player draws 2 cards, plays a card, Overlord plays a card, and then at the end of the turn, we swap hands. Okay, this is crazy. You swap hands. Ming player draws 2 cards, plays a card, Overlord plays a card, swap hands, and so it goes on until we get through this deck, and then we move to the second era. So you do know to some extent what your opponent's holding, and obviously in the solo game it's very deterministic because you can see exactly what they're holding. Now at the start of the game there's 5 borderlands controlled by the Ming Empire, these green cubes. We've got 1 gold in supply, we've got 1 junk. Junks and gold are used to explore these 7 voyage locations. The Overlord has 1 troop in each of their homelands. This is the Ming Empire homeland, your homeland. And these troops can be moving about the map. Chinese troops can move in and out of their homelands to the borderlands, but not into the Overlord homelands. And the Overlords can move in and out of these borderlands and back to their own homelands, but not to the Chinese Ming Empire homeland. Alright, so it's all about controlling these 5. Let's kick off. So we draw 2 cards, and then we play a card. Cards are dual use. You can use them for their command points, their CP. Okay, so these are 1s, a 3, a 2, or they can be used for their events. The curved daggers are events that can only be used by the Overlord. These with the scrolls are events that can be used by the Ming Emperor. On the scroll events, you'll see a ship and a number. This says you can only use this if voyage number 3 is completed. Some have other conditions, so this one says 4 or more voyages completed. This Overlord event has no conditions, it can be used any time. Now at the start of the game, you get 1 of the 7 voyages for free. Just roll a die. It's a 6. We place one of our junks on 6, Sumatra. Probably the least full voyage, because that doesn't open up any of our starting events. Alright, so we're going to use some CP. Let's assume we use 3 CP with the Earthquake card. This gives us a number of choices. We can take the recruit action, which allows us to take, because it's 3 CP, 1 troop per CP, and place them in the Ming Empire homeland. We could take the move action. With the move action, you can move from one region to an adjacent region. Okay, and with 3 CP, you can move up to 3, 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay, these 5 borderlands are all adjacent to the Ming Empire homeland. The Western Overlord homeland is adjacent to these 2, Eastern to these 3, and the Manchus Barbarian homeland just to Liaodong. These are all adjacent to one's either side, so you could move 3 like this maybe. And then if you played a 1 CP and wanted to move again, something like this. Remember, you can never move into your opponent's homeland. And the Overlord has these white discs called settlements. If they ever take control of one of these borderlands, which is what their objective is, you can't move in to a region that contains hordes or settlements. You could attack, so that's our third option. If, let's say, the Barbarian Overlord controlled Ganzhou, then you could attack with, I've spent 3 CP, so I could attack with up to 3 troops, those 2 hordes there. The other options are tax. For 3 CP I can take up to 3 gold from the supply and place them in my homeland. I could build junks, so with up to 3 CP I can build up to 3 junks and place them in the South China Sea over here. Or with those 3 CP I can voyage, and we'll come back to that in a minute. That's using gold and junks and sending them on one of these 7 voyages. I'm going to take the tax action, we're going to put those 3 gold in our homeland. If I'd use something like this Famine 2 card, this has 2 caps, 2 command points. In the top half here is a barbarian event. When you play a card, if it has an event on it, your opponent can then take that event. So you have to be a little bit cautious. Of course I can play this for its event or for its CP, then our opponent can react and use this event. Right, and that's why there's 2 events on here. Now I've played this Earthquake card. It only has Ming Emperor events. There's no react event on here. There's no curved dagger. So our opponent can't respond, they can't react. Perfect. So this card gets discarded. We've drawn, we've played our card. Now the Overlord gets to have a go. Now in the solo game, you look at your hand of cards, or hand of cards that's with the Overlord, and you pick the card with the highest CP. There's 2 with 2, 2 with 3. So now we need to tie break these 2 cards. And this tie break is settled by this compass down here. It currently points west. West is a tiebreaker for anything westward on the map. East is anything eastward on the map. West also means low, east means high. Okay. And this tiebreaker is going to flip between east and west. Every time we use the tiebreaker, we move it to the opposite side. Right, so we're going to tie break right now, and we're west, so we want the low number to break the tie. I don't know if you can see it, the numbers are very small. They're going to make these larger in the final game, but this is card number 9 and this card is number 15. We were westward for the tiebreaker, we want lowest. Alright, so the lowest, 9, 15, lowest is this one. So we're going to play for the Overlord this card. Now as it goes, we're going to completely ignore this. We're just going to look at the number of the CPs we've spent. Okay, they don't play the events on this card, they always use the CP. And if they're spending 1 CP, they draw from this deck, 2 CP from this deck, 3 CP from this deck. So we're spending 3 CPs for the Overlord, they're going to draw a card from this deck. And then we follow these instructions. It says attack 3, and then a level 1 event. Alright. Now as a soloist, you kind of know that was going to happen, because you can see their hand, you knew what was coming. Right, it says, choose the most favoured target Ming-controlled borderland. These are all Ming-controlled borderlands. The most favoured is the one that can be attacked by the most hordes. This horde here in the Western Mongols can move here and move here. Okay, it can't move here, there's a mountain range in between. The one in the middle can move here, here or here. This horde here can only move into Liaodong. Okay. So the borderland that can be attacked by the most troops, this one can be attacked by 1, this one by 1, this one by 1, this one by 2, and this one by 1. Okay, so it's the Sichuan. That's the most favoured. If there were equalities, you'd have to use the tiebreaker, so it would be the most eastward borderland or the most westward borderland. It says move up to 3 hordes. So in they come, and then we do battle. At the moment there's not much we can do to mitigate these battles, because battles are going to be resolved with dice, but we can reserve some of our cards to help us in battle. We'll come to that in a moment, and perhaps that's something we'll do next time. Each player has 3 dice, so first we roll the 3 dice for the Overlord. Okay, they got 2 3s and a 2. They got doubles, they got double 3. What that means is when we roll our dice, we've got to beat that. We've got to get doubles or triples, and if we get double 3s, then we're level. If we get double 2s or double 1s, we lose 1 troop. If we get double 4s or double 5s, double 6, they lose 1 troop. If we get triples, that's a devastating blow. They lose 2 troops. If we get singles, then they've doubled over our singles, then they inflict a devastating blow on us, so we would remove two troops. Okay? And the only thing to add is that settlements, Overlord settlements, protect their hordes. If there's a settlement here, a normal hit would remove none of their hordes. You have to get a devastating blow, and then it would remove just the settlement. Okay? So settlements are really useful for protecting Overlord's borderlands. So we're looking for double 3 or better on our die roll. Like I say, if we've got cards in reserve, which don't at the moment, then we can get rerolls and stuff. So we're looking just to the luck of the gods. No, we failed. Okay, that's a 4, 3, a 2. We got a single. So we're going to lose 2 troops. They go back to the supply. Right, now the Barbarian Overlord controls the Sichuan borderland. We've got to decide whether we want to push them back, build up some defences, build up some reserves, or perhaps continue our own merry way on our voyages. Right, that resolves that card. Now it says, if used, also execute a level 1 event. Alright, this gives the bot a little bit of an edge, but we discard this and then we also execute a level 1 event. The level 1 event says amass 1. Take 1 horde from the supply and place it in whichever of the homelands 1 and 3, so that'll be here or here. They're going to use their names in the final game. Has the least hordes. If equal, use the tiebreaker. This one has 0 hordes, this one has 1. So it's going here in the Western Mongols. And that's it, we've completed the level 1 event. This is discarded. And now we look back to the event they played. Remember they played this one for its 3 CP, and we could react, because there is a Ming Emperor event here, but it has a condition that we must have completed voyage number 1, so we can't take this reaction. If we did, we could have now taken this action before the Overlord ends their turn. As it goes, this is just discarded, and now to end the turn we swap hands. And start a new turn. Draw 2 cards. 2 3 CPs, I like that. And we play a card. I might actually just voyage, and then we'll think about putting some cards in reserve next time. And I'm going to voyage with a 2 CP card, I think. So I think we're going to voyage with this one. It's a 2 CP card. The moment he would play this one. So I'm going to voyage to 7. Now when you voyage, you can take at least 1 for any number of junks with you. I've only got 1. And then at least 1 gold. I'm going to take all 4. If you total up the number of junks and number of gold, so we've got 4 gold, 1 junk, that's 5. We need to roll less than 5 to successfully voyage here in the Siam. Okay, less than 5. The number of dice we roll is equal to the command points we spent, 2. So we need to roll 2 dice and roll less than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Less than 5. Okay. We got it. We got a 3 and a 6. This one failed, this one passed. Okay, perfect. Having successfully voyaged, we return all gold that we spent back to the supply, and all but 1 junk goes back to the South China Sea. So if we had put more than 1 junk in, they would sail home again. Okay. Likewise, if we failed, the gold that we spent would go back to the South China Sea along with all our junks. Okay, and that gold could be used for the next voyage, but it has to be used for the next voyage. You couldn't save it. It's not here saved in the homeland. It's committed to the next voyage we go on. Okay. Alright, but now we've got 2 out of the 7. Alright, 5 more to go. So we're on our way to our victory condition, and we've unlocked cards like this one, the one that says you must have completed voyage number 7 to execute this event. Perfect. Now, Overlord does actually get a reaction. This one says 4 or more completed. This one says up to 3 completed. Right, 1, 2, 3. So Overlord will get to react. They could play this event. Now remember, they never follow the text on these event cards. Right, so what we do instead is we say, right, this is a 2 CP event, and they're getting a react off it. And this is where we look at these cards here. There's 3, they're called difficulty cards, because depending on which mode, whether you want to play easy, normal, hard, this is a CP2 event. It says the Overlord will play a level 1 event card. Alright, if I was playing a harder variant, it would be a level 2. Okay, that's why these work. They up the difficulty on how the Overlord bot reacts to your events. Right, so with a 2 CP card is going to play a level 1 event in reaction. Right, let's draw it and execute. Okay. If one of these events wasn't possible, you just discard it and go again. Discard it and go again. Unless it's a reaction. There's a little section that says not react. Okay, it says if not possible, discard this and take another. But this is a react, so we ignore this bottom part. Right. Okay, move 1 settlement from the eligible homeland with most settlements. Okay, these are these white discs. There are no settlements, so this is going to be a case of ignore it because we can't do it. Okay. Into an adjacent borderland. So you would move some settlements into borderlands. But that can't be done, we ignore it. Now it's the Overlord's turn. And looking at his cards, he's got a level 2. So that's the one he's going to play. Okay, this one gets discarded. This one gets played. It's a 2 CP card, so we draw from the 2 deck. And it says amass 2. Take exactly 2 hordes from the supply. Place 1 in whichever homelands 1 and 3 has the least hordes. If equal, use the tiebreak. So tiebreak says the most eastward one. So we flip the tiebreak and place it over here. And then place the second horde in homeland number 2, the Eastern Mongols. Okay. Then we do a level 1 event. These are like reacts, then do. Okay, so this bottom part we ignore. Right. Reserve 1. If the Barbarian Overlord has no cards in reserve, then reserve the played main deck card, whether played by the Ming Emperor or by the Overlord. Okay, so we're going to reserve this card, which kind of sucks. If we'd had completed voyage number 3, we've been looking to do this event. We haven't as it goes, so it doesn't matter. But because they're putting this card in reserve, we couldn't react off this card. Right, so they're putting the card in reserve. What we do is we place it sideways face down. That's now a reserve card, and it can help the Overlord player in battle. Okay, switch hands. See, they always start with 4, we end up with 3, and then we draw 2 for the next turn. Now the tiebreaker's westbound. We wanted east. We wanted them to play the highest numbered 3 CP card. We wanted them to play this one, number 27, because we could then react to this event. But then they're going to play the lowest because the tiebreaker's switched. So they're going to play this betrayal card, which has 2 Overlord events with no react for us. So we've got to figure out what we're going to try and do. Can we switch this? Can we force this to get switched with our play? Or do we wait for a next turn? Try and set things up, maybe take the Szechuan buck, maybe put a card in reserve. Putting cards in reserve, let's say we put a CP2 in reserve. What that means is when we do a battle, if we roll, what do we come up with? A terrible roll. Let's say they had double 5s. What that means now, we can use our reserve with 2 CP, and each CP is going to give you a re-roll of any number of dice. So you can keep, well, I can do it twice, looking for that double 6. But yeah, there you go. Right, let's wrap up the episode here. You've got an overview of how the game flows. I'm going to continue to play through in the next episode. Join me then. Bye for now.